Hello everyone, welcome back to the Zildjian India page. Just gonna wait for some more people to join in and then we'll have our guest, Mr. Ash Soan. Yes. Hi Ronak. Hi Nikhil. Good to see everybody joining in. Just gonna wait for a couple of minutes before we invite the amazing Ash Soan. Just gonna put the one sec. Talk. Hi Dhiren. Hi Ganesh. Hi Jignesh. Good to see everybody joining in. Okay, I've pinned my comment and so as you guys all know, we have none other than the master of groove, of shuffle, the one and only Ash Soan, all the way from London. Before we invite him, I'm just going to give a quick introduction. He doesn't need any introduction, but he's one of the finest drummers in the recording and the live scene in UK, and has played on various albums for artists like Adele, Robbie Williams, Alicia Keys. He's even part of the Trevor Horn group with Tori Kelly and Seal, to name a few. He's also performed on the television show The Voice UK for several years. I actually had the good fortune to meet him last year in Ireland for the 21 Drums camp, where he was teaching, and I got to hang with him and learn from him. And also I got to see him live in LA earlier this year at the Zildjian live event. The episode is going to be out soon, so do check that out. And yeah, so he's been a pro in the recording business. You must have seen all his videos from the Windmill studio. And yeah, without any further ado, I'm gonna add Ash. Let's see if he's here. Okay, and here we go. See if he's here. Hi Ash.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Very good, sir. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'll go inside. I'm just outside my studio, so let's go inside.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So I'll just stick.
So
I'll set
finally
my
we are
drums
back
and I'll
in
stick
the
you here.
finally we're back in the Windmill studio.
Yes, here we are.
Lovely. So tell us, sir, how have you been, and how are things back in London? Like, how's the lockdown treating you there?
Yeah. Well, the windmill is actually a little way out of London. I'm actually 3 hours outside of London.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not right in town, and in a way, I'm happy to say, hey, Kaz, and you know. So I think it's very different to here. So where I live in the countryside, we've been locked down just like everybody else in the world, and yet because we're so sort of secluded, there's not many people around. There's not really been any cases out here. There has been
That's
free of
good.
it,
That's
but
good then.
I don't know personally anybody around here that's you know. But here we're pretty cool.
Are you able to
I'm
hear me?
thankful, and I've got this place. Yes, I've got you. I've got you. You're spinning a little, or maybe I am. How's that? How's that?
I just hope we can have you back. Is that better?
It's better. Yeah. How am I for you? Am I a little bit pixelated?
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
it's a little pixelated, but I can still hear you now better.
Good. Yes. So anyway, thank you for asking. We are we're okay here. You know, my family and I. I've grown a beard because I'm not going anywhere. So, you know, yeah. And I'm very lucky to have this place, you know, where I work, and I'm really lucky to be able to create in here. You know. How is it with you?
So it's good. It's kind of opening up back here in Mumbai now, slowly but steadily. And you know, but it's not recommended to kind of step outside. And if you do it, then you have to take all the necessary precautions, wear your mask, the usual stuff. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, we are seemingly unaffected by it here, but everybody is still doing that. Yeah. So if there is any chance of the virus, people are still being very cautious, you know. Yeah. Right. Well, listen, man, I'm glad you're safe anyway, and everything's cool out there.
Yes. Same as that. So, sir, before we, you know, talk about Zildjian and your association, I wanted to know a little bit about your, you know, your early age. You know, when you were learning from Brian Stone and Andy Richards, if I'm not wrong, and you also studied at the Drum Tech in London. So, how was that experience then?
That's right. Yeah. So Brian was my first teacher when I was about probably about 12. Actually, I had lessons when I was. About 10, I had some lessons with a friend of mine. And then I got a drum kit when I was 11. So Brian taught me from about 12 until, I mean, maybe 16, 17.
Okay.
You know, and Andy Richards taught me very briefly for maybe a year, something around that. So I can't remember, but I went to him for a little while. And then I moved down to London. I studied music in Manchester in '99, and then I moved to London in '91 and went to Drum Tech. And I was 21 when I moved to London to try and, you know, I was very fortunate to get a grant from the music department from where I lived in Shropshire in England, and they amazingly paid for me to be able to go to Drum Tech, which was the first sort of proper drum course in the UK in London with Francis Serio. You're right, and I jumped at that opportunity because I knew that if I actually needed to work properly in the business, then I needed to be able to play to a click comfortably. I needed to get my sound together, and I needed to get my general playing up to some kind of scratch, you know. And Francis was a fantastic teacher. And then he eventually, I was only there for a year, so 1991 to 1992, and then I was out in the fresh air trying to make a living, you know, in London. And when I was at Drum Tech, I started playing in clubs and pubs and tried to start my career while I was on that course. And it sort of paid off for me, to be honest. I was very fortunate that I started to get a little bit of work. Yeah, so I used it as a leg up, as it were, you know, like a helping hand. And it was really, really, really great for that.
Right. So, you know, a lot of people ask about how important is it to go to a drum school or a university, you know. Not many people can afford as well, like, you know, whether it's going to London or going to New York, you know, for a unique kind of a plan. So what do you suggest in that particular case? You know, how important is to kind of go outside and, you know, explore these schools and universities?
Well, so basically for me, it was the vehicle to enable me to prepare myself to be a professional musician. So I think in that instance, I think they're very, very good places for people to get their, for want of a better way of saying it, to get their shit together. You know, you can go there, especially, I mean, I can't talk about the American colleges, you know, I mean, some of those places, they're very, very expensive to go to.
Yeah.
And then I think possibly you might need to question, you know, I heard Dave Elitch talking about one of the big colleges there that it can cost you $50,000 to $60,000 to go there. Yes. And it's like, and as a musician, and this is what he talks about from this angle, as a musician, you come out into the wide world from a college like that owing $60,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. And then you start at the bottom rung of the music business. It seems like a mountain to climb to pay that money back, or because most people will get grants or borrow money or whatever to go to these colleges. Yeah. So I think, I don't know, it's a tricky one, that, isn't it? You know, I think if you've got $70,000 and you're into drums, well, why not? You know, but I think sometimes I feel, and people mustn't take this absolutely as a gospel statement, but sometimes I feel, you know, if you've managed to scrape together $50,000 to go to a college, maybe that might be more worthwhile you move into a city and invest in that money in your apartment, in your life there, and try and build a career straight away, you know. So it's open-ended. But for me personally, the very short amount of time that I did go to study, it was really helpful because I used that study time to get the skills that I needed when I was outside. And I had that very clearly in my mind. So the click, you know, now, interestingly, so in 1989, in the early 90s, there were still drummers that couldn't play to a click, would you believe? Because now nearly everybody can.
Yes.
You know, amateurs, everybody's getting their time together. It's amazing. What I'm seeing now, which is an amazing phenomena, which is now guys can't play without a click.
Yes.
Some guys, they need that sort of crutch to lean on, that.
Right.
And then I can play. It's like, well, try playing without it. And there are guys that can't. So that's a brand new phenomena. You know, when I was younger, I got my first proper gig because I could play to a click. And most importantly, I could play to a click live, which is what the band wanted. But yes, in answer to your question, I think in general they're good. Music colleges are good. But I think as far as investing tens of thousands of dollars in your musical education, I think it's worth thinking about how far you want to go with it all, you know, education-wise, not the music, not music, because everybody wants to be a successful musician. And there's a saying in England, there are many ways to skin a cat, you know, which is, you know, there's so many different ways to do a job, to get to an end point. Spending $70,000 and going to Berkeley is one. Moving to London or New York or Los Angeles and just giving it a fucking go is another, you know.
Amazing. I think that's a great advice. And I feel that also, like, things have changed now because of internet and, you know, so much information, which is anyways available, which was not available, you know, back in the 80s or the 90s as well.
Absolutely.
And I think the drum camps also is a great initiative now, which, you know, you guys have been doing so well. And like, you know, for me, it was a really amazing experience coming to 21 Drums and hanging with you guys and, you know, learning so much from you. Like, you know, just being around you was, you know, a big learning experience. So things are changing now, I think. And not, as you said, you know, we can depend on, as you said, going to a city and then starting life from there instead of, you know, giving so many thousands of dollars to, you know, university.
Yeah. And I think even now, even the lesser known courses, you're still going to have to find $10,000 and then, or say you're in London, you've still got to find maybe 10 grand to go on the course and then you've got to find your apartment and live somehow in one of the most expensive cities in Europe. It's like, wow, okay. And then there's still no guarantee that you'll come at the end of your course and walk straight into a job, you know. And I can't emphasize enough what I did when I was in London. I was on the course and I was learning, and I was learning the skills I hoped that would be useful for me in the future. But I was also straight away trying to get jobs. Terrible jobs, you know, pubs, clubs. I didn't care. I had a little car, I had a little drum kit, and I wanted to try and get out there. And I knew in my mind that meeting musicians was the way to evolve, and your career will hopefully get some wings, you know.
Right. So can you talk about your earlier influences, like Steve Gadd, you know, Jeff Porcaro, like, you know, stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, that's two crackers right there, you know. Gadd, obviously, you know, and I managed to meet him a few years ago, and, you know, was sort of stunned by his, always stunned by his playing. But I was really properly humbled by his personality and the way that he was with me. And I was with a younger drummer, actually. And the way he treated the drummer that I was with, you know, so open and so giving as a personality. And it's no surprise to me that when he plays the drums, that's how he plays the drums. He's very giving. He's very thoughtful about his playing. And when he meets people, when, you know, I met him now a couple of times, actually. I met him in when we were out with Zildjian Live at NAMM in January. Stanton Moore and myself did an event for Zildjian, and Steve turned up. So we saw him and met him again, and he was, again, exactly the same. There's no change. He's a very, very cool cat. And I love his playing. I love the taste in his playing, the musicality, the cheekiness. You know, he'll drop something in, and all the drummers in the world, and well, most musicians in the world, will go, oh, come on. You know, he'll just play time for ages, and then he'll play something so beautiful that fits, and it isn't showing. It's not showing off, and it's not. It's technically sometimes, you know, can be very interesting. Steve, he's an amazing drummer because his vocabulary is sort of, in some respects, I hope he's not watching, in some respects he's sort of quite limited compared to the stuff that we're seeing now with drummers. But his ideas are very musical, and every time he plays, it's a musical statement. And I love his playing. Porcaro, again, is somebody that I've always admired. His Halftime Shuffle was the first time I actually properly heard it. Actually, I'd not heard Bonham or Purdy by that point. The first time I heard that groove was Jeff on Rosanna, which was I was 14, 1984, and I remember thinking, immediately, what's the guy playing? Because I knew the beat was like this. You know, I knew the bass drums and stuff, but I was like, there's something going on. What's it? Like, you know, got my sticks on at my kit, but and I just, it blew my mind, you know. So I was immediately hooked with Jeff, and then, but pre those guys, Stuart Copeland is somebody that I'm an absolute huge fan of. Is playing, and I was very fortunate to work with him and play with him a few years ago because of Trevor Horn. And again, his personality is very reflective of the way that he plays the drums. You know, he's an explosive, dynamic human being, and then when he gets on the drum kit, okay, that's how you sound, you know. So I love characters in drumming. So pre those, the sort of the more mainstream groove guys, Stuart, I was really into the Police when I was a kid, you know, And then slowly I started listening to music which had Steve Gadd on it, and then Jeff. And then I realized, you know, back then, these guys were on the same records. That happened a lot. So then I'd start listening to the same guys, and amazingly, they were on the same Al Jarreau, for instance. You'd have Jeff on one track and Gadd on another. Steely Dan, same thing. You know, Jerry Marotta, all those really cool guys. And they're the ones that I always loved. And I also... I love them all still, you know. Omar Hakim was a drummer that really absolutely blew my mind, you know. And I really, really tried to be Omar, you know. It was...
it's a great combination of groove and
sort of
chops.
still trying. Manu Katché, you know, of that period, I was very fortunate. There's some really great drummers in the pop world, you know. So Manu playing for Sting, you know, Omar playing for Sting, Manu playing for Peter Gabriel. Really amazing, you know. And so, but always songs really is this thing for me.
Right. When did you decide about the approach that this is going to be my approach, you know, like less is more? I want to keep it very groovy, you know, some fills here and there, but, you know, it should be very tight. When did you decide that approach that, okay, this is the way I'm going to move forward?
I guess the short answer is I decided when I realized I couldn't do all the other stuff. Well, I realized...
No, you can, I'm sure.
Well, I really can't, you know, and in fact now it's much more apparent now how limited my technique is. So I gravitated towards the guys that left space, and if they did play something that was slightly technically a little bit more out of the box, it would be for a very short time.
Right.
And you know, like Steve would drop a beautiful licking, and I just got more and more into that. And then I did actually start playing for pop musicians. So there's no, you know, now it's a little bit different with some of the bigger artists like Rihanna, etc. They want a live drummer that will absolutely fill that sound in that room.
Yes.
And that often means a lot of playing, you know, and I get it. I understand that. You know, you're playing to 80,000 people. You can't just sit there and go, okay, I'm going to play this. I mean, you can, and a lot of bands can play to 80,000 people. But when you're talking about when there's pyrotechnics going off and dancing, and there's a huge band, you need a big, powerful, ferocious drummer to actually get your message across. And I get it. And I realized very early on that I'm not that thing, you know, and I never will be that. I never will be that thing. But I was very fortunate to have confidence in myself and go, yeah, I'm not that thing, but I am this. And then I realized, oh, singers like the way I play, and producers like the way I play. And then I realized, oh, I'm onto something here. And then I realized that, you know, the people, I'm nowhere, and I'm absolutely in nowhere at all ever in the league of Steve Gadd. But I play much more like Steve Gadd than I do Aaron Spears, for instance. And then I realized the producers and the artists that I'm working for prefer people that play like me. And then I found a nice little road for myself where, okay, you know, I know I'm not going to be called to play on some crazy high energy fusion track, because it's just not me. But I do get called a lot of times to play on people's songs, and I love pop music. I really, really do, you know. And the sounds as well now, that's the next thing that I'm getting into, is the actual sounds that you can get out of this amazing thing, you know.
Right. I think not many drummers can do what you do, and there are a lot of drummers who can do all these other things that you mentioned, but there are very few who can, you know, just play less, but it's so musical. And I think you are one of our, you know, heroes and masters when it comes to that. and so much to learn from you when it comes to, you know, playing less and playing musicals, which is very, very important, especially in the song format.
Yeah, you know, and I've said it before. For me to, you know, if you think about the main body of work that I've had, it's been people like Cher, Rod Stewart, you know, Adele, and recently the thing with Dua Lipa and Alicia Keys, and they don't want, on a record, they don't require you to do. In fact, you almost should be underneath the music. Yes. Don't get in the way of the music, and if anything, support the singer. And I've said it all the time. You know, if you support the musicians you're playing with, singers mainly, from my perspective, if you support the singer, they will remember that. They will remember you and go, "Oh no, that guy was really on the gig or in the studio. He really reacted to the way that I sang. You know, he supported me in that chorus, and he dropped back for me in that verse when I was singing down the octave or whatever." You know, and they're the things that slightly come naturally to me because I've listened to so many songs, and I like song music, but also I have developed it. I've realized, okay, so the fat snare sound, I realized years ago, absolutely years ago, like, why is it, like, you know, I'm talking 15, 20 years ago, why is it that singers really like that, not super fat that I'm messing around with now, but somewhere in between, but a lower frequency snare drum? Why do singers like that? And then it occurred to me that if you look at the frequency width of a song, the singer operates
on the top,
medium to top. That snare drum is underneath their vocal, as is the bass drum. So you've got, and they've got all of that space to sing. Yeah. And you're not in their way at all. Whereas if you've got a snare drum that sounds like this, and you know, it's really full on, you've got to be very careful with that with a singer, because you're right in their way.
Right.
And I realized 20 years ago that the reason people, why do they like this snare drum? It's not you know, it's not because it just sounds fat and beefy and cool. There's something else going on. And I realized I'm pretty sure it's because it's unobtrusive in some respects. The groove sits there, and people are like, okay, well, and then the guitars and the keys and the strings and the vocal can all operate in their world, and we're sitting down here in the mud.
Yeah, I think this is really advice is like gold, and I think everybody, the drummers who are listening on this chat, you know, please take this into consideration. Yes, chops are important, but groove is very, very important, and playing musically to the song is very, very important. Yeah. So, sir, talking about Zildjian, tell us about your, association with Zildjian. When did you start endorsing the cymbals? And if you can give us a small tour of the studio, and if you can show us the setup, that'll be great.
Yeah, so Zildjian, so my first proper band was a Scottish band, which I still play with, and we've just done a record, actually, just before lockdown. That Scottish band called Delamitri.
Yes.
And I joined that band in 1994. And that year, we did Woodstock. We played at Woodstock 94.
Wow.
And we supported the Rolling Stones, and we supported Bryan Adams, Bon Jovi, REM. We did all of these shows. So we were properly starting to spread our wings as a band. Yeah. And I hadn't got a deal. I was using a few Zildjians. So I approached, it was America really where we were the most. So I approached Zildjian America, and then I got signed it would have been 94 in the UK. So I've been with Zildjian now, it's 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, half my life I've been playing them.
So what was your first setup of cymbals? What was the first set of cymbals that you got from them?
Well, I've still got the hi-hats are not in my studio here, but I still have the hi-hats which I got off them around that time, which were KZs.
Okay.
KZ.
KZs, okay.
So K on the top and a Z symbol, Z symbol on the bottom.
Okay.
Which Manu Katché was using 13-inch KZs. I've still got them, but they're in another studio. And then I think I had this ride. That was actually my ride. That's my ride symbol, which I bought when I was 17 or 18. I've still got it. It's kind of cool. But here we go. These are my these are 1950s Ks.
Wow.
And I've got some dry things. I've got the K dries I like. This is a new sweet K sweet splash. That's the ride that I was talking about. Caropes. And I've got this guy out again. This is an overhammered 22.
Constantinople?
Yeah, because everyone's missing I started to stack two cymbals, a Carope and one of these.
Yes.
And people really got to like it. And I haven't done it for a while. And someone said, "Where's your stack gone?" So I'm going to do it again because it is a very cool sound, you know. And then I've got some more here, Caropes. These here are my A's. These are the same age as me. These are 1969 A cymbals.
Wow.
And that's Steve Ferroni's side of I did a gig. I'm very fortunate to play with a guy called Hamish Stewart, who from a band called the Average White Band. And where is he? I've got a picture of him. Here he is. He's over here. And this is me and Hamish playing. So he's a really great. He played with Paul McCartney for about 8 years. He plays with Ringo Starr in the Ringo Starr All Star Band now. Hamish.
Wow.
That's a very young me in the background there. So and I've played with him on and off for about 25 years.
Okay.
Here's Stuart.
Stuart.
He basically, we was playing in a small club in London, and he said, "Can you do this? Can you do the gig?" Yeah. Went down, and I was halfway through the first set, and Steve Ferroni walks in, and I'm like, "Well, it's his gig." So Steve basically finished the gig, and I sat on the floor behind him, but he was playing my hi-hat, so I got him to sign my hats. Oops. Yeah. So that's I've got some snares, this is a Zildjian thing. We're not talking about anything else.
No, we won't mind actually checking out some of the snare drums if you can just give us a quick look.
Sure.
Yeah, because we've been listening to all this on your Instagram page, and finally we are here in the studio today.
And there's a couple of records that I absolutely love, which I didn't play on, but I wished. And then I've got some other records. So if you look at the things that I played on, it's all they're all singers. So there's Robbie Williams and Seal.
Wow.
CeeLo, Celine Dion and Billy Idol, Adele, of course. But it's all singers that I work with. So here's some snares. This is the original Purple Heart snare drum that started the whole thing off for me to get the Gretsch version.
Right.
Lovely Joe Montanari there, 14x4. That's this Yamaha. I was with Yamaha drums for about 15 years, and this I used on many recordings. I used that on the Adele recording.
Okay.
And then we've got a Gretsch there, and a few more Noonans, and a Sakai. That's a beautiful Babinga drum there.
Yes.
Let's go over here.
Which one did you use for the Seal recording? For Seal 7?
Oh, Seal 7. So it would have been that 12 over there.
Okay.
Probably. And also there would have been a Yamaha kit at the studio. There's an Acrolite, and there's the Dunnett. That's a lovely Dunnett
wow.
Spirit of New Orleans. Another Sakai, and that's my Club Custom there. That's an old 60s British make called Edgeware.
Beautiful.
A 70s chrome over brass and a Noonan. and there's a couple more over there, and there's a couple more over the back.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I love this thing. So this is
Wow.
this is 100. It's 100 years old.
Wow.
It sounds absolutely beautiful, the bass drum. Yeah, with its, you know, it's the original cymbal. Definitely not a Zildjian, that.
Amazing, sir. Lovely collection. Lovely collection. So you
Cool,
generally
man.
prefer like 14 by like a 6.5, 7, like deeper snare drums for your session work?
Well, I found, so this thing here is the snare drum that everyone that I used on the Alicia Keys thing and on the Dua Lipa tracks. I recorded this, and people really like that deep, even though it's only 4 inches deep. I've got it sounding very, very fat indeed. So if we just, I'll just take you away a second while I put my
yeah.
So this is the track that I was playing as we came in. It might crash, of course, being Pro Tools. So and it'll go to the fat sound in a minute. So that's this.
Wow.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah. So that
beautiful
guy, it sounds unreal. And the high snare is actually this, which is another 1950s Gretsch round badge. And that's the 1950s Max Roach, and now we call this the Fat Max. Lucas van Gretsch basically nicknamed it that, and it's stuck. So this is Fat Max. And then I've got the 2 bass drums down here. So this is the main bass drum, which is my main kick 22. Right. And then I've got a remote, which is very much like Stanton. Influenced by I realized Stanton, he's got this really amazing thing where he's got 2 bass drum sounds in one kit, and I thought, okay, he's doing it in a very brilliant sort of New Orleans open way, but I thought this could work for me in a hip hop groove kind of way.
Wow.
So I'm very much experimenting with the 2 kick sounds, you know, open. Sounds really great. As you know, a little bit more like Carlock, you know?
Yes, very open.
That sort of, but then I'm processing it, and it makes it sound like a 808 bass drum.
So, sir, I wanted to know if you have any kind of trigger mics that you're using for kick and snare right now while you're recording?
No, no. This is it. Everyone goes, oh, they're really cool samples. There's not a sample. Well, there's samples in the music, but there's no samples on the drums. So if I take off, I'll play this thing again for you. So that's just a kick.
Wow.
And there's so this is kick 2. So that's the 20.
Okay.
Let's go back to it. So this is the 20-inch. Does it sound okay down the phone?
Yes, it sounds great.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so this is the 20-inch. So it's open. All it's got on it. There's some EQ. There's a gate on it a little bit. It's got a distressor plug-in. And it's just got one microphone. It's just got the Yamaha sub kick, and I've made it sound like this. Yeah, so it's
okay.
I'm never triggering. You know, that's the whole point for me, is that you could just get any drum kit out off the shelf, play it, doesn't matter what it fucking sounds like, and then replace all the sounds. But I'm not doing that. I've spent nearly a decade now trying to figure out how they sound, you know, and how you get that sound, and how you can manipulate the sound to, you know, I love that.
Right. So also any kind of hardware that you're using, whether it's like maybe like APIs or, you know, stuff like that, sound card wise?
Yeah. So my rig is this. So the main drums are going through these 500 series analog preamps. The distressor, I've got a real distressor here that's set pretty maxed out, and that's so the fat sound goes through a vintage 41, which goes into the Neve, and then it goes into the distressor. And actually, there's hardly anything on this. There's just a spot of EQ on it. All the crunch is coming from the drum and this baby.
Yes.
And the Neve. It's going through that Neve there. And then I've got some Apollos. That's what I use. And so these guys are going through the Apollo X8. Because here we go. There's no preamps in it. It's just an interface. Then I've got two 8XPs which have got preamps in them. So I've got other stuff on the 8XP. Where are we? So the toms are going through it. My room mics, snare bottom, floor tom, sub kick, and the crunch mic's going through that. That crunchy thing there is the guy that makes the magic-y. It's like, it kind of adds crunch. That's all I can say. Then I've got this as well. There's a microphone just hanging above the kit, which came out of an SSL, would have come with an SSL desk, and it's called a ball and biscuit microphone. And that's just hanging there. That is also very crunchy. It's just hanging in the room like a mono room mic, and it goes.
Right. And any kind of acoustics you've done to your place out there, or it's just the way it is like?
Incredibly, no. You know, and people say, don't all the snare drums rattle? You know, what's going on? On the snares that are closest to the kit, I have got tissue on the snares, so they're not rattling. But it's incredible. The walls are very, very thick indeed. They're made out of straw. Okay. So they're this thick, you know, they're nearly like half a meter thick. Right. And so the walls are very, very thick. They're very soft, and they're very absorbent. And the room is round, obviously. So there's no reflection. There's no big reflection from the drums. And it's insulated. We really properly insulated it, you know. The walls, and also the ceiling's very, very thick. The floor is insulated too, and there's wood everywhere. Very warm materials in the room. Even the bricks soft, you know, because they're 200 years old, these bricks, you know, and you can see like that, you know, they're just very old. Amazing. You know, so these guys they're really that's nearly 200 years old, you know. Yeah. Amazing. So, sir, I wanted to know, like, when you send your files to any of the producers or engineers, are you doing all the effects and stuff and then sending to them, or you tell them that, okay, you know, these are dry files and then I want you to work on it? Like, how does it work? It depends. Now what's happening, a lot of people like the sound of this. You know, people are liking the sound that I'm making in this room. So a lot of people will say, oh no, we want that. We actually want the noise you're making. And then this snare drum, so the Fat Max snare, for instance, it kind of sounds weird in here, but it's definitely fat, that. And if you just put, naturally that just sounds pretty fat when you put a microphone on it. Do a bit of EQ to it, and it will still sound fat, you know. I'm juicing it a little here to make it even fatter. But most sort of bigger producers want the raw sound. They don't want me to play with it at all.
Okay.
So someone like Trevor Horn, it doesn't care. He doesn't want any of my stuff on it. No. Just wants the raw files. Most people are like that. But then, having said that, there are some pop producers, like I say, now that are going, oh man, I just love that sound. And sometimes now what I find is that people ask for both. So I'll give them the raw sound and I'll give them my sound. And then they might go, oh, it's just a little bit too fat for us. But the raw sounds really great. And some people have got back to me and they've said, we use the raw overheads and the raw room mics, and yet we use your processed snare. And you know, it's people are mixing and matching, so I offer that too. They can have both lots of stems, I don't care, you know.
Right. Like most of the time, do you get involved in the mixing and the mixing process for certain songs? Because you know, a lot of times you send the files, but then when you actually listen to the final master, you know, they've changed the snare drum sound or they've changed the kick drum sound. Does it happen to you as well?
Of course, happens to everybody. But having said that, I can hear, I can still hear my kit, if you know what I mean, on some of the recordings. But also, if I'm sending people my processed stems only, then they can't do too much to it. It's kind of done, you know. So there's a lot of records. There's a couple of records that I did recently for South American artists. And they just want my sound. They like the sound I'm making in here. And I've just sent that, and then they've sent me the record, and it's like, oh yeah, that sounds like that. You know, it sounds like my kit. So essentially, I've engineered those sessions. And it's an interesting world now, because if you're putting the microphones on the kit and you're putting them into a preamp and you're setting the gain and you're pressing record, then you're engineering anyway, you know. It's changing right in front of our eyes, and I'm very fortunate to be an older person that is kind of not ahead of the curve, but you know, I definitely understand how all this shit works, and I'm making a living out of it, and I feel very, very fortunate that I understand how it works, because there's a lot to learn, and I'm still learning. You know, like every day I find something new. Like, okay, that amazing, and it's always the little things. You know, it's always the little tiny little adjustments that you don't think about that someone might suggest to you, and it makes an enormous difference. I love it. It's fascinating.
Okay, so we're going to do a quick Q&A section. There were, you know, we had asked a lot of people to send their questions, and you know, we got it from Instagram. This question is from Raman from Delhi. You know, how is your pocket so deep? Any advice in practice regime that helped you solidify the pocket?
Yeah, that's very kind of him to feel that. I've not been to India yet, by the way, and I would. When all of this nonsense is over, I would dearly love to come out.
To have you here, sir.
Yeah, I'd love to visit you guys. Well, firstly, it's very kind of him to feel that. And like I said at the beginning, when we were talking about the early days, I practiced to play the drums simply. So I spent a lot of time playing 2 and 4 and trying to make that feel good. In fact, I spent nearly all the time doing that. And hey, presto, it starts to feel quite good.
Right.
You know,
there's another similar question from Jignesh from Mumbai as well. What's your approach to getting that swing in your playing? You know?
Right. I guess again that is like listening. You know, listening to the drummers, and why does it feel like that? You know, what is it that makes it feel? And then trying to identify what you need to do at the drums to make it to make it do that. You know, like we talked about at 21 drums, I've got a theory that one side, this is your completely straight playing, and then this is completely swung, i.e. a great example of that is Halftime Shuffle. It is the ultimate tripletized groove. I feel that if you can get that groove down, as well as you can get your straight playing down, then all the stuff that's in the middle, which is slightly swung, you know, why does it feel like that? Those grooves will come much more natural for you, I feel, you know. So yeah, I kind of, it's listening, and listen, how do I make it sound like that? So these modern grooves, you know, that the guys are playing, that I'm still experimenting with, you know, someone said to me, it's that 5. It took me a little while to go, okay, what are they doing? Like, what are you doing? You know, but then when you listen and listen and listen, I also thought, I do understand we're running out of time, right, as well. But I also remember...
Yeah, just got about 8 minutes, but yeah, we can join in as well.
Yeah. I remember people trying to decipher what they're playing and write it out and figure it out in a mathematical way. Oh, they're playing 5s. It's 5s. Right. But then I start, okay, maybe it is. But really, to me, what it is, it's a groove. Yeah. And you can learn that groove just as easily as you can learn this groove. You know, if you spend some time on grooves that sound like this. That stuff. If you spend some time on listening to that and trying to internalize it, then you can play it, you know. And I'm still now trying to learn from the guys that are doing that, you know. It fascinates me because when I was younger, no one played like that. No one was messing around with the time. It was just Picaro, beautiful, nice and tidy, and now guys are really bending the envelope. JD Beck, you know. You saw him out in
amazing.
I'm watching this kid, and he actually made me quite emotional when I was watching him because he's technically a child.
Amazing.
And he's bending the way this instrument sounds right in front of our eyes. You know, it's incredible.
Metric modulation at its best, I guess.
What's that? Sorry.
Metric modulation at its best, like, you know, really like stretching and pulling time in the groove part.
Yeah, I'm not sure about I don't know about his click playing. I don't know about that. But anyway, whatever he's doing is fascinating, and I'm fascinated by it. And to get back to your man about pocket, listen and just try and make that sound.
Perfect. You know. There's another question from Ishan from Ahmedabad. He's saying, how important is hand technique while playing?
Technique as in,
like holding the stick. Like what do you do? Like you know, French grip, German grip. There are so many new ways of, you know, playing that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of. I think I'm French. There's quite a lot of thumbs on top, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, as long, it's interesting, is it? Again, for me, it's the sound, and technique is something that I don't know much about really, but I know that if you're making that sound happen, it doesn't matter if it's in your teeth, you know. If it actually sounds like the thing that you're trying to achieve, then in a way, all of this. Is it Moella? Is it German? Is it French? Is it traditional? I mean, in a way, none of it matters. It's what it sounds like is the most important, and what it feels like is what's important, you know.
I think maybe what he was trying to also ask is, like, maybe does it change from genre, because you know, so, you know, you've been doing so many different genres, whether it's reggae, whether it's pop, whether it's rock. does it, your grip changes according to the genre, or something like that?
I think my hand probably moves around a little bit. For like for speed on the halftime shuffle, I know for a fact that I bring my fingers in.
Yes.
And I do the sort of pulled double thing.
Right.
So when the halftime shuffle starts getting quick, my fingers are involved. So I think it's important to work on your technique for sure. But
right.
As far as sitting in front of a mirror and seeing if it's all dropping in the right place, it's not my thing. I know some guys talk about that, and I can't really talk about posture because my posture is terrible when I play the drums. But it's like, well, I'm not a magazine, use these. This is the bit that I'm interested in. What's it sound like? And there's a lot of great drummers, I think, out there that sound really, really great, but don't look particularly great when they're playing,
Right. Right. Yeah, I think there was another question about posture. Karun from Drum House, I think he's also been to the 21 Drums camp, and he was asking about the different body posture for different kinds of music. If you have that.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, because it's your attitude towards the music that you're playing. So I quite, if the music's got energy, quite a lot of energy, I actually like to higher my seat. So I'm on top of my drums.
Right.
So I'm on top of the beats, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So I agree with him. I actually do think your posture, if it's loud and it's aggressive music, then you have to be in a dominant position on your drums to make it happen, I think. Yeah, I agree with him. And I think you probably naturally change your approach to your instrument when the dynamic changes. Yes. I think I do anyway. But I will definitely higher my seat if I've got, like when I was on The Voice, I had my seat quite high.
Okay.
Because I wanted to be on top of my drums. I wanted to be on top of what I was playing. It's all clicked. It's high pressure gig. There's so many songs. There's music to read. You got the MD in your ear. You got the music. It's like, so I wanted to be in a position where I was on top of my shit.
Right. Okay. I think we have last 2 minutes, sir. Yeah. If you want to just give like a final message to all the upcoming drummers who are listening to you right now.
Say that again. Sorry.
One last message to all the upcoming drummers on the chat right now.
Well, listen. Well, firstly, I want to thank you guys for supporting me and what I do here. It's overwhelming when I see all the messages and stuff that people say. So I want to thank you for that. But what I will say is that if someone like me can make a living out of music, and I've just been driven by the fact of my love for music, that anyone can. And I think, don't ever sit there and think, oh, it's not going to be me. I haven't got what it takes, because I think everybody inside them has what it takes to make it as a musician. You can spend a lot of time, you can waste a lot of your time trying to be something that you're not. I feel that I was very fortunate that I discovered what I was and where my heart was early on, and it's paid off for me. So I think, like we talked about at 21 Drums, try and discover what you are and focus on that, and you'll be surprised what you can achieve.
Amazing. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for joining in. It's an absolute honor to have you on the show today. And hope we can have you on India in India soon, and we can do like a tour around India with you.
Pleasure. I can't wait, and hopefully keep safe out there, everyone, and we'll be able to meet soon and actually make physical contact. All right, dude.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Thank you once again, Ash, for being there and giving us so much time. We will be back next Saturday with another amazing drummer from India, and hope to have, please be there, join the chat, support Indian drummers, and, we will keep getting all these amazing masters from across the world, and, we'll have some more amazing chat with them. So See you guys next week. And thank you, Marcelo. Thank you, Harmeet, Ramakrishnan, Shiva, Suneet. Amazing. So many amazing people. I hope you guys really enjoyed this session. And I'll see you next Saturday at 6 p.m. Cheers.